Hi, my name is Berenice Muro, and today I will be talking about tropical rainforest deforestation. Here's an agenda of what I'll be teaching you today. Begin with the background information, a description of my topic, reasons why it's occurred, a status of the issue, proposed solutions to met issues, and ending with the current barriers to these solutions. I'd like to begin by providing you with some background information on what tropical rainforest deforestation is and where it stems from. It all began around the 1600s and late 1800s, when over half of North America's forest was cut down to make way for cattle grazing and agriculture. According to Sarah Doyne, a life science contributor, over 30% of the world's land is covered in forest. She also mentions that forests on Earth provide not only food, medicine, and fuel, but also over 13.4 million jobs in the forest sector, plus another 41 million jobs related to the forest. In the same article, they found a 2017 report by scientists at the University of Maryland showing that the tropics lost about 61,000 square miles of forest, which is an area the size of Bangladesh. Moving forward, Red A. Butler, founder of the Manga Bay website that publishes news on environmental science, says, tropical rainforests are incredibly rich ecosystems that play a fundamental role in the basic functioning of the planet. Rainforests are home to about 50% of the world's terrestrial species, making them an extensive library of biological and genetic resources. In addition, rainforests help maintain the climate by regulating atmospheric gases and stabilizing rainfall. They protect against desertification and provide numerous other ecological functions. We know that today most deforestation is happening in the tropical rainforest. This is because areas that used to be inaccessible are now within reach as roads are constructed through the dense forest. It's a particular concern in tropical rainforests because they are home to much of Earth's biodiversity, which causes most animal and plant populations to slowly die out. Roads are being created to gain access into these tropical rainforests, which we see as a factor in how remote areas who have valuable mahogany, gold, and oil are being discovered, which in turn gives an incentive to continue to invade tropical rainforests. In this class, we've done an extensive research on climate change, yet I had no idea that about 10% of global greenhouse emissions come from the human activity of deforestation. Now that I've given you some background on tropical rainforest deforestation, I'd like to describe to you what it truly is. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, aka the FAO, defines it as the conversion of forests to another land use or the long-term reduction of tree canopy cover below the minimum 10% threshold. In order to understand the problem of deforestation, we must know that forests are more than just a collection of trees and plants. They are integrated ecosystems and are major players in the carbon and water cycles that make life possible. The forest resource is rapidly depleted with little consideration to the long-term consequences. Once the resources are all used up, developers move on to new areas, continuing the same process, until we are left with degraded environments and indigenous people lose their livelihoods. The reasons for which it has occurred are the following. The Union of Concerned Scientists, aka UCS, report about 4 commodities which are responsible for tropical deforestation. Those being beef, soy, palm, oil, and wood products. But the main 2 reasons it began was to make way for agriculture and grazing. It's known that 80% of the loss is due to agriculture, but the FAO also states that 40% of the world rely on fuel wood or charcoal as a primary source of energy, either for cooking or heating. Fuel wood consumption has increased 250% since 1960, contributing to the loss of 18.7 million acres of rainforest. I've learned that in the last few years, there has been a great increase in population and shifts in diet, which bring the need for more food that is produced on land that has been reclaimed from the forest. As the human population continues to grow, there is an obvious need for more food. In addition, agricultural products such as soy and palm oil are used in an ever-increasing list of products, from animal feed to lipstick and biofuels. Rising demand has created incentives to convert forests to farmland and ranchland. Once a forest is lost to agriculture, it's usually gone forever, along with many of the plants and animals that once lived there. Unsustainable agriculture expansion is a direct driver for around 80% of deforestation worldwide. Mining, infrastructure, and urban expansion are the next most prominent drivers. According to the World Bank, there are estimates that about 3.9 million square miles of forests have been lost since the beginning of the 20th century. In the past 25 years, forests shrank by almost 502,000 square miles, which is an area bigger than the size of South Africa. In 2018, The Guardian reported that every second a chunk of forest equivalent to the size of a soccer field is lost. Along with the loss of land, the planet loses untold numbers of species to extinction, the vast majority of which have never been documented by science. As these forests fall, more carbon is added to the atmosphere. Climatic conditions are further altered and more topsoil is lost to erosion. Centrally planned urban experiments have resulted in tremendous forest loss in parts of the world. For example, Indonesia's massive transmigration program moved roughly 730,000 families to the outer islands of New Guinea, Borneo, Sumatra, and Sulawesi, in an effort to reduce population pressures on the crowded central islands of Java and Bali. The program was generally seen as a failure since many colonists failed to establish successful farms in the hinterlands, while large areas of primary forests were cleared. Today, some of the worst fires in Indonesia occur on these once forested lands. Conflicts between migrants and original inhabitants remain a problem, especially in places like Indonesia and New Guinea. Brazil is another country that has lost a significant amount. The Brazilian Amazon lost 3,600 square miles of forest in 2015 alone, equal to the size of the state of Maine. As well, Brazil has the largest extent of rainforest cover, including nearly 2/3 of the Amazon. Tropical rainforest deforestation continues to be a current issue for lots of people around the world, as some rely on these forests for shelter, livelihoods, water, fuel, and food security. Some proposed solutions to tropical rainforest deforestation are restoring the forest through replanting trees in cleared areas, or simply allowing the forest ecosystem to regenerate over time. The sooner a cleared area is reforested, the quicker the ecosystem can start to repair itself. Afterward, wildlife will return, water systems will reestablish, carbon will be sequestered, and soils will be replenished. Everyone can do their part to curb deforestation. We can buy certified wood products, go paperless whenever possible, limit our consumption of products that use palm oil, and plant a tree when possible. One way in which governments have tried to combat tropic rainforest deforestation is with the Paris Agreement called REDD+. This agreement, short for Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation, provides financial incentives for communities and countries to keep forests standing, thus reducing carbon emissions caused by deforestation. With these proposed solutions come barriers, which include patronage and power, the worth of the rainforest when they're dead, the money they are worth dead, the owners in charge of it, and the legal practices used. Going into detail, firstly, forests are often treated as a source of political patronage to be used to get and keep political power and support. An extreme example took place 2 decades ago, when then Liberian President Charles Taylor routinely rewarded political loyalists with lucrative logging concessions. Secondly, trees are often seen as obstacles to economic growth, while so-called development is seen as first extracting value from standing forests in the form of timber or biomass energy, and then offering supposedly longer-term value of the land under the trees, either for grazing cattle, raising agricultural crops, extracting minerals, or speculating on the value of a future sale. Thirdly, financing forest conservation and restoration has proved difficult because many forest benefits are not monetized, and financial incentives supporting activities that drive deforestation or keep trees from coming back often outweigh the incentives for conservation and restoration. The fourth barrier: communities living in and around forest areas can play a vital role in successful conservation and restoration, but are often excluded from decision making about forest policy, in part because of unclear and contested land tenure. Indigenous peoples and local communities collectively occupy at least half of the world's forests, but have legal rights to only about 10% of these lands. The absence of secure legal rights leaves communities and the forest vulnerable. The last one being systemic corruption and low levels of law enforcement often exacerbate these barriers. Although progressive laws may be on the books to support forest conservation and restoration, there's little follow-through and illegalities continue to occur. After hearing all the information I provided, if you're interested in learning more on how you can help stop tropical rainforest deforestation, you can visit support.worldwildlife.org and pledge to buy forest-friendly products when available, and commit to preserving nature's beauty for future generations.